Good morning, good afternoon and good evening. Welcome to Smashing English. Before we start this lesson, be sure to subscribe because I put out new videos every single week and you don't want to miss any. So make sure to subscribe and like. And without further ado, let's get on with the lesson. Allow me to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Laura. I'm 23 and I live in Birmingham. It's a big city in the middle of England. I'm an English language teacher and some of my hobbies are performing, creating and cooking. And I've lived in England all my life and although it's a bit rainy, I do like it. What about you? Okay, depending on your level of English, you probably would have understood all of that, some of that, or none of that. But either way, we're going to go through it sentence by sentence. I'm sure introducing yourself was probably the first thing you learned in English, but I want to make sure that you're introducing yourself like a native. So let's go through it. Hi, I'm Laura. Okay, I know it's basic. I know this is the most basic thing, saying your name. But you probably have learnt, hi, my name is your name. And we do say this sometimes. Hi, my name is Jeffrey. Hi, my name is... I can't think of any name. John? However, it is much, much more common to say, hi, I'm Laura. Hi, I'm Jeffrey. But watch out, I'm is a contraction of I am. Now put together, okay? I am, I'm. However, we don't say, hi, I am Laura. Never, hi, I am Jeffrey. No. You sound like Groot.
I am Groot.
So the most common way to tell people your name is I'm. Okay, let's move on. I'm 23. Again, we use I'm very frequently. I'm 23. I'm 48. And again, not I am. And watch out, because in a lot of languages, ages are described as something you have. So, for example, in French, j'ai 11 ans. I have 11 years is how they say it. Not in English. We don't refer to age as something we have. It's something we are. So the most common way to tell someone their age is I'm 23. Okay, next sentence. I live in Birmingham. It's a big city in the middle of England. Okay, there are a few ways that are commonly used to talk about where you live or where you come from. The three most common ways of saying this are I live in, I come from, and I'm from. Now, most of the time, these can be used interchangeably. However, there are subtle differences. So, I live in definitely means this is where I live now. I live in Birmingham. She lives in Spain. She lives in America. So if you want to be sure that the other person knows that you live currently in a place, definitely say I live in. However, we can also say I come from Birmingham or I'm from Birmingham. The same thing. We know that that's where you live, that's your home. In some contexts, I come from can mean where you were originally born. For example, you were born in Spain, but you live in London. So you could say, I come from Spain, but I live in London. So in that context, there's a difference between where you come from, where you were born, where you grew up, compared to where you live now. Does that make sense? Nod if it does. I knew it would. But for this particular lesson, we'll just be focusing on I live in. You'll notice as well that I say it's a big city in the middle of England. This is just a bit of context. It's a personal preference of mine. I usually give people a bit of an explanation of where I live because it's not London. And I'm sure if you're watching and you don't live in a capital city, I'm sure you've had to explain where it is you live. So giving a little bit of context, like it's a big city near here, or it's a small city near London. A little bit of context maybe afterwards if you would like. Okay, next sentence. I'm an English language teacher. So when we talk about our careers, our jobs, again, I'm is very, very common. I'm an English language teacher. I'm a nurse. I'm a teacher. I'm a footballer. You can say things like, I work as a cleaner, I work as a nurse, I work as a teacher, but it's slightly more natural and native sounding to say I'm a. Sentences like my career is, or for a living I am, not so common. Oh my gosh, bless me. Fun fact, when someone sneezes in English, we often say bless you. There you go. Okay, next sentence. Some of my hobbies are performing, creating and cooking. Okay, you probably will have learned some of my hobbies include. This is okay. Again, not so natural, not so native. We could maybe use some of my hobbies include in a more formal setting, like a job interview or a presentation. But most of the time, some of my hobbies are. And we use are because we're talking in a plural sense. If you only had one hobby, my hobby is. You'll notice that all the hobbies I listed have one thing in common. ing on the end. Very often when we talk about hobbies, we talk about it in the continuous form. Why? Because hobbies are things you do continuously. You don't just do a hobby one time and then go bye-bye. It happens again and again and again. So most of the time, if your hobby is also a verb, for example, reading or singing or dancing, ing when you talk about it. If your hobby isn't a verb, so football, darts, they're names of sports, they're not verbs, then don't add an ing. So never, I like footballing. I like darting. Just, I like football, I like darts. Because the name of the hobby isn't a verb, it's a noun. Okay, moving on. I've lived in England all my life. Okay, I've lived, contraction of I have lived, which is what we call the present perfect tense. Don't worry if all that tense work just makes your mind go because I'm going to be doing videos on each of the tenses individually. I got you. But just quickly, the present perfect tense is used when we want to link the past to the present. My hands look so weird. I have lived in England all my life. It's something that started in the past when I was born and continues to this day. I have lived. It makes the listener know that it started in the past and it still happens. I'm still doing it. I have lived in England all my life. I have danced for 5 years. I started dancing 5 years ago, but I'm still doing it now. I have danced for 5 years. If I used the past simple tense, I lived in England all my life. One, it sounds like I'm dead. I lived in England all my life, and then I passed away. And two, it sounds like you're going to say something else. I lived in England all my life, but then I moved to Spain. Okay, so that's not the correct tense when we're talking about something we're still doing now. So you were born in Spain, you lived in Spain all your life, you're still living in Spain. I have lived in Spain all my life. And the last sentence, although it's pretty rainy, I do like it. This is just a nice little way to round up my introduction, just talking about where I live, giving a bit more context. Say what you like. You can say anything. I've lived in America all my life and I love the weather. Little something on the end, just to round it all up. And that's it, your very quick explanation on how to introduce yourself like a native. Obviously, it depends on the person. How I introduce myself might be different to how you want to introduce yourself. All I've offered you today is a version of an introduction that's quite natural and native sounding. Please leave a comment below if you have any questions about this video. I'll try to answer as many as I can. And I'm also offering one-to-one English lessons, and the link for that will be in the description. Also in the description will be my Instagram, where I'll be posting various English learning tools, so be sure to give me a follow on there. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Ta-ta! And my resource recommendation today is Knickers in a Twist, a dictionary of British slang by Jonathan Bernstein. It's a great little resource to help get to grips with British slang and the phrases and crazy words we use. It's available on Amazon and I'll leave a link in the description below.